For a majority of people on my channel, a lot of people haven't actually played Pokemon, competitive Pokemon, or Pokemon Showdown before, myself included. I haven't really played competitive Pokemon really ever. So I had to do a lot of research over the course of the last week or so. Ever since maybe the last weekend, whenever I had free time, or when I had time on a train, or before I went to bed, or when I was maybe doing work, I was listening to stuff in the background to content about Generation 4 competitive OU. And I'm gonna explain what that means, and I'm gonna explain some of the things that I learned. When I first had the idea for this tournament, I wanted obviously a tournament that everyone can participate in, and Pokemon Showdown is great because Pokemon Showdown is a battle simulator that anyone can download for free that allows you to basically make any team of Pokemon you want to fight against another person's team of any Pokemon you want. There's different formats you can play with. You can obviously use Pokemon from different generations. So you can play Generation 1 battles, or Gen 3, or Gen 6, or even Gen 8, because we go all the way up to Gen 8 right now. And based on the format you choose is what pool of Pokemon that you have available to you. So for this specific tournament, we are playing with Generation 4, all the first 493 Pokemon that are available to you. However, as many of you know, not all Pokemon are equal. Some Pokemon are, of course, more powerful than other Pokemon. Some Pokemon are a lot weaker, some are a lot stronger, some are what you would call overpowered, some are what you might call underpowered. So within each generation, there's actually different formats determined by how powerful Pokemon you want to play with. The format that allows any Pokemon, which I think is called Anything Goes, which is literally any Pokemon and there's no bans. But in formats like Anything Goes, everyone usually plays the same Pokemon because all the same Pokemon are insanely busted. Anything Goes, everyone's gonna be playing like teams of Rayquazas and like Groudons, and just these really overpowered Mewtwo and like these really overpowered Pokemon that have busted stats, busted move pools. Then there's a tier below that called Ubers. Ubers is pretty much every Pokemon aside from a select couple that are insanely broken. Like I think Mega Rayquaza and like a couple others might be banned in Ubers, but most of them are not. Almost every Pokemon's available in Ubers. It's a pretty popular format, and you can only use one Pokemon, one of each Pokemon in Ubers. So in Anything Goes, you could use all six, like you could use 6 copies of Ho-Oh if you wanted to, but in Ubers, you can't do that. In Ubers, you have to use one of each Pokemon, which makes it more fun, you know, obviously makes it more interesting when you're using 6 different Pokemon. Ubers has pretty much every single legendary in it, insanely overpowered Pokemon that has all the Uber tier Pokemon. And there's like maybe like 25 of Uber tier Pokemon within the first 4 generations. The format we're going to be playing with is called OU. OU is another format below Uber that has every Pokemon classified as overused and below. So all Uber Pokemon, it's actually, I think, UBER. All OU Pokemon are allowed, and anything in tiers below OU are allowed. So any overused Pokemon are allowed, any underused Pokemon are allowed, rarely used Pokemon are allowed, and any like not used Pokemon are allowed. Typically when you play OU, or when you play any format, you will usually only use the Pokemon in that format because everything below is not powerful enough. So for example, if you're playing in Ubers, you're typically not going to use OU Pokemon because they're too weak to compete with other Uber Pokemon. Typically when you play OU, you're not going to use underused Pokemon because they're not powerful enough, so on and so forth. You might sprinkle one in if it makes like your composition work or something, and use mostly Pokemon that are in that tier level. So because we're going to be playing OU format, most of the Pokemon you'll see people playing with in this event are going to be in the OU tier. And there are approximately 40 to 50 Pokemon in the OU tier, I think. These are the official rules for what we'll be playing with in the tournament. And it's basically what I just explained. We're gonna play Generation 4 Pokemon, anything but prior to or up to Gen 4. We're gonna be playing overused rules, and we're gonna be playing with certain restrictions that are already actually imposed on Pokemon Showdown. So you can't even break these rules. Any Pokemon that is Uber is banned. Everything that's OU is allowed, and I actually see a whole list of OUs here. It actually does look like there's maybe like 50 OUs. A couple other rules for this format that we're playing in OU. There's a couple abilities that are banned and a couple items and moves that are banned because they're too powerful for the format. Abilities such as Arena Trap and Sand Veil are actually banned. Arena Trap, I believe, makes it so your Pokemon can't switch out of battle. The reason for this is because Pokemon like Doug Trio used to use Arena Trap, and they would come in against Pokemon that they were super effective against, and usually when someone switches into a Pokemon that's good against your Pokemon, you will switch Pokemon into a Pokemon that is not going to be hurt as hard by that Pokemon. However, because of Arena Trap, you wouldn't be able to do that, so you'd be forced to basically guarantee lose a Pokemon a lot of the time. So they banned the ability Arena Trap. They also banned the ability Sand Veil. If Sandstorm is active, this Pokemon's evasiveness is multiplied by 1 1/4, and a Pokemon takes no damage from Sandstorm. I don't think Showdown likes anything that like raises or lowers evasiveness of Pokemon, so I think actually moves like Double Team and Minimize, I'm pretty sure, are banned. So it makes sense that Bat and Pass, things that raise evasiveness, would be banned. The only item that I see banned here is called Soul Dew, which could be held by a Latios or a Latias to give its special attack or defense multiplied by 1.5, which is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, maybe Latios is banned, but it says you can use Latias. And then Bat and Pass is the only banned move. The user is replaced with another Pokemon. Its party selected Pokemon has the user's stage stats. I don't even know why they banned this. Oh, this was probably too good in stall, because basically it's a move that lets you switch a Pokemon, but the Pokemon would gain all the effects that the other Pokemon used. So like, let's say my prediction as to why Bat and Pass is banned is because you could probably put in a really bulky Pokemon like Blissey or Clefable, and then use a bunch of stat enhancing moves, and it will tank a lot of damage. And then you can use this move to Bat and Pass into a new, stronger Pokemon, and then it passes all those stat enhancing moves to it. It might be a little bit of a weaker HP wise or defense wise, but a really strong attacking Pokemon. And then you give it all those stat boosters, and then you just have an uber powerful Pokemon that can just like start one-hitting things. Great, cool, awesome, very good, very good. Makes sense. This is what I'm looking at right here. This is where it says, this is the link I put in the chat. Overused. It makes up about 3.4% of Pokemon. These are banned, these abilities are banned, this item is banned, and this move is banned. And these are the Pokemon that are allowed in this format. You can see them all right here. You can see their types, you can see their max stats in here. These are all the ones that are used, and these are like some underused and other Pokemon that sometimes people use but are not as popular. Like I've seen teams with Abomasnow and Clefable, and even though they're underused, they're still sometimes used on these teams. Like I've seen Gallade before. I've seen some people use Hitmontop and stuff like that. The only other thing I should mention, guys, is there are a couple clauses that are implemented into the rules of Pokemon Showdown so that in Gen 4 that make it so you can't do certain overpowered things. For example, there is a sleep clause, meaning if you have already put an opposing Pokemon to sleep, you cannot put a second opposing Pokemon to sleep, which is too powerful. If the opponent uses a move like Rest and that puts the Pokemon to sleep, and then they switch that Pokemon out, you can put a Pokemon to sleep, but your team can only put one opponent's Pokemon to sleep at a time. A player cannot have two Pokemon of the same species on a team to avoid, I guess, overusing one of like a certain type of species, I guess. Players cannot use, here it is, players cannot use Double Team or Minimize, which is what I said before. Players cannot use any move that one-hit kills. And I think this is because there's an item that allows you to max out there's a held item or an ability. I know Machokes use this a lot. That will guarantee all your moves hit, and you could use that in conjunction with Horn Drill or Guillotine or Sheer Cold or Fissure to one-hit KO any Pokemon. I think they wanted to allow that item to stay as an item because it's a fun item to use, but not allow one-hit kill things. So a lot of times you'll see things like Machamps with Focus Punch, which only has like 50% accuracy, but it's a really powerful move, and they will use this item that this ability that makes all their moves always hit. So they can always hit this really powerful move with very little drawback. But they obviously cannot use these one-hit KO moves because it would be too overpowered. The last move is the timer clause, and if a player exhausts their timer, they lose. Think about like chess. If you're playing chess, you have a timer. You only get a certain amount of time to make your moves. It's a very generous amount of time, but they basically just don't want you sitting there doing nothing while you're playing with people. And that's it. Those are all the rules, guys. I actually want to talk about the different types of Pokemon in this meta so you guys understand what teams are usually made of and what you usually want on certain types of teams. Anyway, different types of teams. There are, of course, different types of teams and different types of strategies with Pokemon teams. There's more aggressive slanted teams. There's more defensive slanted teams. There's stall teams. There's combo teams that have like combos between a couple different Pokemon. Enhancing, so I try to keep a really balanced team. And I believe that is the most popular one, which is what we'll talk about the most, because I think having a balanced team that has coverage for everything is the best way to usually build a team, especially when someone like me or someone like most of us are starting off from scratch. That isn't going to get super owned by any particular strategy, and it covers kind of all its bases. A team that has coverage for everything. With that being said, I'm going to show some of my teams in Pokemon Showdown as I talk more about this, because this might be a little bit easier. What I did before I started the stream, I did some research, and I tried to find people online who had like dumps of teams that I could import and just use their team. What I learned is that there is no best team. A lot of Pokemon are viable in different combinations, and there's no universally accepted best team. So when I kept trying to find like, oh, what's the best Gen 4 OU team? There is no best Gen 4 OU team. In fact, the meta changes over time, and there's lots of different things that are viable. These are the teams that I found on my laptop last night, and I'm so pumped. I'm really excited. I played a couple games last night for fun. I turned on the stream about an hour ago, and I download Pokemon Showdown. I opened up, and then I realized I can't access the teams that I created on this account last night. And I did some research, and I realized that if you open Pokemon Showdown on a new device, even if you're on the same account, your teams don't transfer over. So I had to rebuild all these teams from scratch. I was able to schmooze from some people online who seemed like they were good at the game and just copied their teams and pasted them in here. But these are some examples of what I would say are some examples of strong Generation 4 teams. And you'll notice some themes between some of these teams. Some of the popular Pokemon you'll see here are Pokemon like Tyranitar, Flygon, Dragonite, Heatran, Rotom, Starmie, Bronzong, Jirachi, Azelf, Zapdos, Gengar, Suicune, Metagross, Breloom, Melodic, Empoleon, Abomasnow, Lucario, Raikou, Roserade, Gyarados, Scyther. All these Pokemon I'm listing are Skarmory, like Vaporeon. A lot of these Pokemon are popular, I would say, Pokemon in the metagame. And you'll actually see, in fact, below, I actually did make a test team. This is my sample test team that I put together. Anyway, let's talk about what you need to have on a team to make a good team. Yes, here it is. This dude has a really cool guide. These are the types of roles that Pokemon will play on a Generation 4 team. All right, and the first one is a lead. A lead, of course, is the first Pokemon that you start with, and a lead is very important. Some Pokemon can only be leads, like they're only good as a lead. Some Pokemon are not good at all as leads, and some Pokemon could be a lead or a non-lead Pokemon. They talk about 3 different types of leads. There is a suicide lead that has really high attack and speed, so they can outspeed the opponent and try to use explosion in some way, and they're used to counter certain leads, such as Azelf or Metagross. There's a hazard lead, which is the most important one because it's the most common one, and this is a really defining part of the Pokemon Gen 4 OU metagame, is hazards. Hazards are moves such as Stealth Rock, Spikes, and I think Poison Spikes. What spikes do is usually early in the game, a Pokemon, usually the lead Pokemon, sometimes the second Pokemon you send out, will lay spikes or poison spikes or something on the ground. What that means is every time a Pokemon switches in, they will take damage relative to their type weakness, usually to rock, I think it is, when you use Stealth Rock. And because there's a lot of switching that happens, that damage will accumulate whenever you switch in Pokemon. And if you're trying to switch back and forth between different Pokemon because your opponent keeps switching into Pokemon that are good against yours, you're going to be taking a lot of damage when you're switching in Pokemon. So hazards are a very prominent part of this metagame. The last type of lead is an anti-lead. The main purpose of an anti-lead is to counter other types of leads. Counter leads by breaking their focus sash with something such as Fake Out, which is a priority move that always goes first. So you can fake out an opposing Pokemon, you can break their focus sash, and then they get rid of them or force them to switch out in some way. That could be Pokemon like Weevil, Infernape, Hariyama, Ludicolo, Toxicroak. Any of these, and some of these can do multiple types of leads. So sometimes it's hard to actually tell whether someone's like a suicide lead or a hazard lead. Like if you start with Azelf, it could be either. If you start with Infernape, it could be an anti-lead or a hazard lead. So there's different types of leads. Then there's a Pokemon called a Spinner. This is too big brain. It's not that hard, Pickle. It's not that hard. Just I'm going slow. Spinners are Pokemon that have the move Rapid Spin, which allows them to get rid of hazards, to get rid of the spikes, toxic spikes. These are the 3 most popular ones. Starmie, I think this is Claydol, and this is like Fortress, maybe? Oh, here you go, some example. Starmie, Fortress, Claydol are the more popular ones. I think Smeargle, Tentacruel is pretty popular. Donphin, Hitmontop, Kabutops, and Cloyster. They all can learn the move Spin, which is a normal type move. I think it does 40 base damage, and it removes all hazards. Usually on a team, you want to have at least 1 Spinners. A lot of teams run 2 Spinners. It's basically a Pokemon that knows Spin, and it also usually is just a good Pokemon in general. Like Starmie is, I think, the most popular Spinner. Just a very strong Pokemon. It has good typing. It's a water and psychic type Pokemon. I think Cloyster might be like an ice type. Tentacruel is a water poison type Pokemon, pretty strong. Hitmontop is a fighting type, which is just a good Pokemon type to have. Then you have something called a Spin Blocker. Usually most teams have one. Not all do, but a lot will. The most popular Spin Blockers are Rotom and Gengar. I believe from what I've seen from most teams, most of the time you have either a Gengar or a Rotom. Sometimes you have a Dusknoir or a Miss Magnus or a Frostlass or a Spirit Tomb. Usually it's one of these 2 though. When a Spinner tries to use the move Rapid Spin, it's a normal type move. So when you switch into a Ghost type Pokemon, normal doesn't affect Ghost type Pokemon. So if they go to use that move, you switch into a Rotom or a Gengar, the move doesn't hit you because it doesn't affect you, and then the effect of the spin doesn't work, so it doesn't clear any of the hazards. So you basically, you switched into a new Pokemon and you've wasted their turn because they spun, but they couldn't hit you because you switched into a Ghost type Pokemon. So this is what's called a Spin Blocker or an Anti-Spinner, whatever. I think it's really called a Spin Block. So these are very good Pokemon to have on your team. What is a Spin Blocker? It's a Ghost type main purpose to switch into a Pokemon that might be attempting to Rapid Spin to get rid of the hazards. Because the Pokemon's a Ghost type, Rapid Spin doesn't affect. I also forgot to mention that in Gen 4, Rotom forms were Electric Ghost. In Gen 5, they adopted other typings, which is interesting. So there's actually 6 different types of Rotom, just so you guys know. And in Gens 5 through 8, when you'd give a Rotom an item, it could be a different type. It could be a Electric Fire, Electric Water, Electric whatever based on what dual typing you give it. But in Gen 4, the generation where Rotom came out, if you give it one of those items, it actually maintains its original typing, but just gets additional movesets, I think. So no matter what type of Rotom you use, it'll always be a Ghost type. And it will always be a Spin Blocker, which is crazy. The last thing is cores. And basically what this means is the Pokemon you have in your party should have a core of typings, so you basically are able to minimize what Pokemon you can't deal with, and so you have coverage for every type of Pokemon. So a good core would be something like Fire, Water, Grass. So if you have all Fire, Water, and Grass on your team, you pretty much have coverage for a good pool of the metagame. Same thing if you have a Dark Psychic or Fighting, like a Dark Psychic Fighting core or a Flying Rock Fighting core. These are just some examples they give here. It's not perfect because there's always going to be holes no matter what core you choose, but it's basically to try and maximize what you can cover with different sets of Pokemon. So you typically want to incorporate a core into your team. The most common is a Grass, Fire, Water core. Now, stall teams commonly will have Pokemon like Togekiss is common, things like Blissey, Clefable, Hippowdon, Gliscor, Empoleon. When you see Pokemon like these, a lot of the time people are playing a stall strategy and plays a long game. So one option could be like using Toxic to chip down their health over time. A lot of teams will have something called a Stall Breaker, where you have a Stall Breaker Pokemon to sort of shut down stall teams. That's like kind of the point of a Pokemon called a Stall Breaker. Like usually the stall teams have a Pokemon that is weak to Poison and Steel, but they usually have one Pokemon that can deal with Poison and Steel type Pokemon. Usually it's a Heatran, so stall teams usually have an answer to the counter stall Pokemon. There's something called Full Pass teams. I actually think this might be outdated because Bat and Pass is actually illegal now, so you cannot use Bat and Pass anymore. And then they give an example team here. And this is actually quite a strong team, I think, that they suggested. They give like Azleaf, Rotom, Tentacool, Hippowdon, Heatran, Tyranitar. Very good team. It has lead in Azleaf right here. It has the Spinner, which is Tentacruel. It has the Spin Blocker, which is Rotom, and then it has a nice core. It has, if you see, it has Fire, Water, And then, or this is fire, this is the water Pokemon, the fire Pokemon, and then I'm sure maybe Hippowdon knows a grass, something might know a grass move. It has dark, psychic, and ghost, which is another kind of core. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'm just spouting nonsense. But it's got a bunch of things, so I gave you guys a lot of information. I think we should probably look at my teams and then play some games, because we've talked about so much already. Beyond that, it's basically just playing a lot. But beyond what I just have been talking about over the past like 45 minutes, is mostly just playing a lot of reps of games and just learning. Gen 4's Heatran knows Grass Knot. I think so. I'm not positive. I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe. That's what I would recommend. Just use Pokemon you like, honestly. That's what most important. You don't want to use Pokemon that are like awful. Like, you don't want to use like Farfetch'd, you know, or like Weedle, right? You want to use Pokemon that are actually good, but you don't necessarily need to use Pokemon that are best. In fact, oftentimes it can be good to use Pokemon that are maybe like tier 1.5 or tier 2 because people don't expect them. It mixes things up a little bit. People aren't familiar, especially people like me who haven't played very much. People will get caught off guard, and it could open up opportunities for synergies with certain Pokemon as well that you might not have known about. Yes, Garchomp is banned because I think Garchomp has over 600 combined stats, but Heatran does not. Heatran is annoying, but there are definitely counters for Heatran. There are 100% counters. Starmie can deal with Heatran. Polion, Tentacruel, Vaporeon. So there's answers to every single Pokemon. There's no Pokemon that is unanswerable. You could use something like Tyranitar is insanely powerful. Metagross is insanely powerful. A lot of Pokemon like that are very strong that you can use in your team. There's definitely other Pokemon that are very, very good and play similar roles, I think, to them. Let's take a look at some of the teams we put together. These are basically teams I found online. I found a post on a website where some person posted like 15 teams and gave a little bit of a description of each one, and I literally just imported all these teams. The rest of the evening will be open to challenges with you people in chat. If there's anyone who wants to participate in our Showdown tournament, which is happening on Sunday, you will definitely want to be in that Discord. That's where we're going to be. That's where you can get the information to sign up and where you can get all the updates for the event and where it'll be helpful for us coordinating people playing together on the day of the event. So make sure you join our Discord, and I'll try to play against everyone if possible.